Yogesh, product evangelist from GUVi. So on behalf of GUVi, let me just welcome Diana. So Diana is a Python developer advocate at Vonage. She's a Google developer advocate and Microsoft MVP, O ambassador, and G Durham organizer. So welcome, Diana. So over to you.
Hello, everybody. It's a great opportunity and a privilege to be here. I'm going to start sharing my screen right now. Bear with me. Okay. All right. You should be able to see the slides, correct? So I'm going to check the chat. Perfect. The name of my talk today is Deployment 101 for Frontenders. And I like to make this Star Wars themed, kind of like, because I'm a Star Wars fan. And let's start with a quote from Yoda himself, talking about deployment. Coded, after all, is to deploy you need. How do we do this? Teach you the easier ways. I will. And I like to apologize just in case you hear me cough. I have been sick with the coronavirus, and it's been quite a journey. I'd like to introduce myself formally to all of you. My name is Diana Rodriguez. Like Yogesh said, I'm a Python developer advocate at Vonage. I'm a GD in web technologies, Google Cloud Platform, Google Maps Platform, and Firebase. I'm an Auth0 ambassador and a GDG Durham organizer. You can find me at superdie.dev, or if you're on Twitter, I love Twitter, you can totally get in touch with me at Twitter, Kotufa82, and I'm leaving the slides URL for you to, if you want to check the slides later on. I will leave that link at the end of the presentation as well. So now that you know who I am, I also want you to know who am I not. I don't know if you recognize this picture, but this woman is the Oracle. I'm not the Oracle, definitely. This is the Oracle in the Matrix. So this means that although, all of us public speakers share knowledge and share insights and share valuable information, I don't think all of us know all the answers, and that is definitely something I want to stress. I don't know all the answers, and because I'm not the Oracle, every day is a learning experience, so we learn from everyone. Having said that, I like to start with a good quote. It's from the Vue.js documentation. It's on Effect of DevOps. It's one of my favorite quotes because it encompasses the principles of this and many other talks I've shared about the subject before I actually read it and stop and explain a number of aspects. I come from a backend and infrastructure background, and then I had to turn into front end, and it was a completely new universe for me. So this quote it really touches me. I will proceed to read it. The adoption of DevOps culture, tools, and agile engineering practices has, among other things, the nice effect of increasing the collaboration between the roles of development and operations. And that's where I want to stop first. Collaboration. In past times, there was always some kind of fight between developers and the operations side. There was a culture based of handoffs and sort of sharing blame things like, well, it works in my machine, were fashion, you know. And now it's all about avoiding those things. One of the main problems of the past, but also today in some realities, is that the dev team tended to be uninterested in the operation and maintenance of a system once it was handed over to the ops team, while the latter tended to be not really aware of the system's business goals and therefore reluctant in satisfying the operational needs of the system, also referred to as whims of developers. And the idea of this talk is basically say, well, if you're a front-end developer and you'd like to deploy your app, of course, in a more corporate setting, you're handing off, or sort of, you know, involving the other side of the team in the process by letting them do these things. But this is knowledge that won't hurt you and that will always benefit you. It doesn't mean you have to change your specialty and become a master in infrastructure to be able to ship your own apps, right? Nowadays, I think this knowledge is a free access to anyone. And I always say, yeah, DevOps, what is DevOps? I'm not gonna go in depth through this loop, but if you see what the DevOps culture encompasses, it's basically involvement in every step of the process and making it visible to all different sectors of the same ecosystem. So we are all involved and we're all responsible. It's not like after a product or an app is developed, we just hand it off to the operations team and so be it. That's the business, you know. This is pretty generic, but there's a better image that talks about DevOps and collaboration. Developer and operations collaboration. It's based on feedback. It's based on automation, build quality, share responsibility. That's the team culture. And then from the organizational point of view, there are no silos and autonomous teams. Yes, no silos. I used to be siloed to my own infrastructure ground for many years, and I didn't have much contact with any other team. And that's something that is out in the past. And that was a daily occurrence, you know, because, you know, with a lack of communication, there were always flops and mishaps, and that's what we basically want to avoid. Anyway, so when we're talking about deployment for front-enders, let's see, we're talking about, first we have to think, are we deploying static applications? Because then things are much easier. And I'm going to share a few personal favorites and other providers. Let me warn you that obviously the examples are 100% beginner friendly and very contrite, and this is on purpose. So we explore different possibilities, and I don't want anyone to feel left out. It doesn't matter. I've been doing this for 20 years, 20 and actually a little bit longer than that. And I feel that going over basics is, you know, sometimes beneficial. You know, it doesn't matter for how long you've been doing this. So anyway, let's say I've got a menu and my favorite providers for examples would be, for example, Zate Now, Firebase, and Search. There are other providers, and I'm going to give you a quick run through of other providers. Say, for example, GitHub Pages is a great option. It's always free. You don't have to customize a domain. It's a very quick and easy choice for deploying static applications, but that's it. You don't have much control of what is deployed. It's good for serving view press pages, documentation, simple things. You can't really serve full-fledged applications on GitHub Pages. Say, for example, Glitch is grand. And the cool thing about Glitch is that you can share your code and people can take it and remix it and make say improved and different versions of what you have. I use it mostly to share code that I want people to, you know, remix or learn from, or demo, you know, applications. There's Bitbucket. I don't use it much. It's in the likes of GitHub pages and GitLab pages as well. SGLib, I haven't used it much, but it's along the same principles. And then there's two providers that I actually like a lot. I have my own personal continuous glucose management dashboard on Heroku. And Heroku offers a lot more advanced options for deploying your applications. This is not only for static applications. You can actually deploy backends as well. So it's a good provider to check out, and they have a really good documentation and a CLI, so you can perform all operations from the comfort of your own computer. I mean, your own command line, sorry. And then Netlify. Netlify stands out for deploying static applications. It has its own CMS, which I think it's amazing, and documentation is quite all right. You can use your own domain name for free as well, but there are certain things that you have to pay for if you want to include more people to your team, etc., etc. I'd say check it out, because you know all these providers serve different needs. So yeah. Now I'm going to share some demos with you, and again, I have to warn you, and consider yourself warned, that these are contrite and beginner-friendly examples on purpose. And we're going to discuss the advantages of these providers from a very subjective perspective, the pros and the cons. We're thinking of front-end developers. We want to ship apps pretty quickly, hassle-free, if we can free of charge. And we want to make this process as easy and straightforward as possible. This is what I took into consideration when making these choices for what I'm showing you. So the first one is search.sh. It's a free provider. It's pretty straightforward. It has its own CLI, hassle-free. The only cons I would see is that if you want to use your own domain name, you have to pay to use SSL, because you can include your own domain, your custom domain, but it won't provide SSL support, and that's kind of a downside, because nowadays, if your apps are not served over SSL, then you won't get very far, at least not with Chrome. But let's see, this is the setup and deploy is very easy. You have to install a CLI and complete a sign-up process. And then you build your app. And once your app is built, you go to your dist or public folder and type search, and it does the job. And I recorded a video just to show this. So see, I made a Vue progressive web app, and see, it builds quite quickly. The dist directory is ready to be deployed, and then I cd to my dist directory, type search, and you can choose your own custom subdomain, and that is a massive win for quick demos. I mean, Great Uncle was also a good name, but you can actually go, oh, and it deploys the app to a CDN, so you can actually, if you want to try it, you can go to awesome pwa.search.sh, and it will look like this. I used the JSON placeholder for a demo content and then deactivated it. Oh, it's back again. So yeah, so that's what you will see. That was pretty easy and hassle-free, and that's my selling point for any deployment tool or any hosting tool is that I can get content out there very fast. The second choice is Now, Zate Now. It has changed a lot over the last 2 years. 2 years ago, it used to support deploying Docker containers. Now things are different because they're more serverless oriented. So things have changed, and I haven't really done much in that respect. You can still deploy your backends and more complicated settings to Now. But the documentation is quite all right. They have really good support. But the cons, if you're not in the paid tier, then the subdomains are really ugly. It's a combination of your dist or public folder with some random characters that are generated. So it's not the most beautiful thing you will see. And then again, the process is the same as Surge. It has its own CLI and it's pretty straightforward. The only thing you have to do instead of typing Surge is type Now from your dist folder once you build your app, and it's pretty much the same. I'm going to skip through the parts of this video. So it will basically tell you that if you're in the free tier, your code and logs will be publicly accessible. The cool thing is it has logs that people can access from web UI, but as you can see, the subdomain is really ugly, and that's the one I was showing you before, if you can see. So if you can live with that, I mean, I don't think there's any hassle on trying it. If you can spare, I think it's $15 a month for an upgrade, then that's cool. It does provide custom subdomains, and then you can use your custom domains in the paid tiers. And it's a very reputable and well-recognized platform. I like them a lot. They actually pull out really good conferences as well. Anyway, moving on. Firebase hosting, and this has nothing to do with me being a Firebase GD. What I like about Firebase hosting is that you're offered with a number of choices. Not only can you take advantage of the hosting services, but you have options for Firebase functions, Firestore, real-time database, Firebase authentication. So you can basically work out your logins to your applications with a lot of good information, documentation, and it's a breeze basically to configure those things from the same control panel. What I have to apologize in advance is that I accidentally deleted the app I deployed this morning, 15 minutes before starting the webinar, but it's not like you wouldn't see anything different than this. It's just the same website published throughout different providers. And the process is much simpler because for those who are not really keen on CLIs, you have the option of configuring everything through a web page. So take into consideration that whatever you name your project ID is going to be your URL for Firebase hosting. And at the time of recording the video, my internet connection was a little bit slow, so that's why you see that. What I love about Firebase is that, like I said, you have access to a number of perks, like I mentioned before: authentication, database storage, hosting, functions, ML-Kit, which I haven't explored with because I'm not too big on machine learning, but you have a number of options for a free plan. In this case, well, I'm basically going to deploy, and I'm going to be using only hosting for this example. But what I like about Firebase is that you get walk through the process, and the instructions are very simple, very understandable. And for those who are not very well versed, you know, this is a huge help, and it provides you a lot of learning resources for free. You can upgrade should you need more advanced features, but the free plan is always free, and it's grand. You can still access the other resources as well for free. And then for setting up and deploying, pretty much in the likes of the previous providers, you have to install a CLI, then you have to log in, and then you init, and then deploy. And I will show you the same video from the same app that I accidentally deleted this morning. I was getting too excited about it. So as you can see, I was already logged in, but I wanted to show each command. This is a little bit older, but anyway, you here select what services you want to use, and then because you've created a project previously, if you created it in the UI, you just select your default projects, and then it walks you through your hosting setup and what is a directory you want to use as your public directory. By default, it will always go to public. With you, it's dist. It gives you the choice of configuring as a single page app and rewrite all URLs to index. And then that's it. That's how you init it. Then when you type Firebase deploy, it deploys everything to 2 URLs. Cool thing is you have the choice. Of course, links are not there anymore. It will be whatever you name your projects, .firebaseapp.com or .web.app. That's pretty cool. You can set your custom domains with Firebase, and they will provide SSL support for free. And that for me is a massive winner. And this is why I picked this 3, just to show different scenarios. One provider that offers custom subdomains, but no custom domain for free. I mean, at least, you know, it doesn't offer SSL support. And then the other provider that offers all these grand features, and you can deploy backends and full-fledged applications and everything else, but you're subject, if you're in the free tier, you're subject to all your logs be public, and as well as a custom randomly generated subdomain. Now, Firebase takes the cake because you can configure your own your own custom domain, and it supports SSL. Netlify does it as well, but Netlify has different features like a CMS and forms and all the things that a Firebase doesn't have. So it's really, like, it's not an easy task to try and compile providers that I would personally suggest to people. It's, you know, whatever tool of choice is good as long as it works for you, as long as it makes your life easier, because I think that's what we're looking for as developers at the end of the day, to ship our content fast and hassle-free. So no judgment on whatever tool you use, it's what best works for you. Now, another thing I wanted to highlight about Firebase is that you can get stats, and you can go through your deployment history. You can check your storage. You have an analytics dashboard. There are other things if you're into mobile apps, etc., etc. I mean, Firebase offers a suite of tools that are amazing, and that I feel that because they're free, you know, it's a good choice to take advantage of all these services and features. But now that we've gone through the easier part of deployment, I'd like to run you through a not automated process, a more traditional approach. And this is how things were done before deployment pipelines and automation came to use. And I still think it's a good way to share this knowledge, because sometimes we will need to do it. And I'm going to use a Nuxt application. I was the former worldwide community organizer at Vue Vixens, and I was their official DevOps. And when we started 2 years ago, we really didn't have, in our first days, we didn't have a deployment pipeline set, we didn't have any automation, and it was kind of like, okay, we need to deliver this website quite fast. And I started with the manual process just to take it as a good chance to show people how to deploy in a different way, in a non-automated process. So like I said, this is a Nuxt application, and very important in your package.json, you have to name your app. Whatever you name your app, this is going to be very useful for PM2, and I will explain why. So name your app whatever you want, but please name it. I'm using my app as an example. So the essentials that are needed for this process: a server, advised over 2 GB RAM because of the nature of this app. I recommend GCP, but it could be DigitalOcean, it could be Vultr, it could be Linode, whatever virtual server of your choice. That's cool. Obviously, because these virtual servers come, bear with only the operative system and some basics installed like Git, you have to manually install Node and npm. Then you have to install Nginx. There are many other web servers that you can install. My choice is Nginx. It's a personal choice. Like I said, very subjective. And then boom, we set things on fire. That's what we do. Now then we're ready to deploy. Once we have that, we have to configure Nginx. And we use Nginx as a reverse proxy to serve our app, because if you run node-based apps, they don't run on port 80. With Nuxt, I think this app is running in port 3000. Angular runs in port 4000. Others run on 8080 or 8000, etc. So in this case, I went to etc. Nginx. Sites available. I didn't make any other changes because it comes with a default template. So the only thing I did was modify these bits. And here, this is the default server. In server name, your domain or IP address. The root folder, well, we don't really care much about that. That's where all the web server files are. If you were serving HTML files, this is where they would be pulled from. But here in location, we are proxying an app that is running on port 3000. Everything else is important gibberish, but I don't think it will benefit us right away. So I'm going to skip through this. And after we configure Nginx, we have to install PM2. And PM2 is a production process manager that basically keeps Node apps or any apps alive at all times. So say you reboot your computer, is not that you have to go through the hassle of restarting the app manually. It will restart the app during boot. So if anything happens, we have this thing keeping our app alive and restarting it should we restart our servers as well. So process is pretty straightforward. We install PM2 globally. And then after you build your app, or start it, you have to start npm, and then with the name, you start your app. This is why naming your app is important. And then if you say you manually pulled some changes, etc., rebuild and then restart your app, you can restart it with your name app, or your app name, or your app alias in this case. And this is an example with the old Vue Vixen server. So I already pulled the changes to website. And then I had to build it. This is a bit of an outdated video. I think I was in a rush to build the app, and for those who build with Nuxt, obviously adding the extra tag --prod optimizes the build size for production. I didn't do that, and as you will see, the assets and the build size is massive. But that was in the days of yore when we were trying to get everything running, and we were beginning with this organization. So don't judge me. So yeah, I got the warning, obviously. It was a massive app, I have to say. At first, this video doesn't do any justice to it. It's a previous version and it wasn't optimized. But anyway, because I already started the app, and the name of the app was Vue Vixens, I restarted it, and then that's it. My app was live, and I could also access a few more details and more metrics, even logs, or whatever details I wanted to see from the app. And this also has like a Monit process. Obviously there was nothing there to see because I just restarted it, but you could see that I restarted it 32 times back then. And yeah, PM2 offers some really cool monitoring tools and insights for those who are a fan of those. I didn't really take advantage of those things, but yeah, and that's how you do it. That's it. I don't think deployment is necessarily a tedious process anymore nowadays. I think obviously it does has its complexities. Now that we're integrating more ways, more tools, that we are using deployment pipelines and features like GitLab, Auto DevOps, Buddy, for example, to visually automate deployment pipelines. You should check it. I think it's buddy.dev. It will basically help you throughout the process from GitHub or your repository of choice to your virtual server. You can basically configure a full-fledged deployment pipeline that will run everything for you on push, including tests. This is something obviously I didn't talk about in here because I said that, like I said before, this was a very beginner-friendly and contrite set of examples. And I guess a way to spark your curiosity. There are other ways, obviously, to deploy your apps. I wrote a tutorial a while ago that I'm going to update on deploying Nuxt server-side rendering applications with Docker. Containerizing things is also a very quick way to deploy things. You can configure everything the way you want from A to Z. But again, may I warn you that this tutorial is a two-part tutorial on deploying with Docker, but it's very contrite, and it goes through a lot of aspects. It has to be updated because, you know, every day things are changing, but I will definitely be back to the blogging side with more content on not only deployment, but also automation, you know, deploying pipelines for Frontenders, something that is pretty straightforward, pretty easy, and hassle-free, and that it won't take you forever to learn or to implement. And yeah, this is how we set things on fire. Thank you very much. This is the slides URL, and I'm gonna see the chats. Oh, thank you. Thank you for your good wishes. So if you have any questions, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. I don't know if you took notes. It's slides.com/superdiana/deployment101. And if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. So you let me know. I think it was pretty interesting.
Hi all, this is Harun requesting GUVi. Thank you, Diana, for this wonderful webinar. I hope it was very helpful for everyone, especially due to this tough times. Everybody was stuck at home. Your webinar is really helpful for learning, to continue the learning part. Thank you, Diana.
Thank you very much. Oh, hi, Bala. Let's see.
Hey,
You're unmuted.
hi Dana, Bala here. So I'm the co-founder CEO. So thank you so much for participating in this initiative. We are very happy to have you part of this. So this has actually enriched a lot of people. Okay, and in this scenario where people are actually fearing and stay thinking on all the terms, right? You actually come forward and spread the positivity among us. So to learn during this scenario and to become a better skilled person when things become normal, right? So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. Like I said, you can reach out on Twitter at Katufa82. I'm more than happy to chat and discuss things, you know, not only front-end development, back-end, Python, deployment, you know, knowledge is there to be shared, and we can always enrich other people's lives. So thank you very much for this opportunity. I hope you have an awesome evening over there in India.
Yeah.